Hello everybody, my name is Mike Bird. I'm the author of the Forged in PowerShell video series here on YouTube. Very excited to be able to be with you today. I've had a lot of people who have actually reached out to me who are finding struggles in their own career field, in the information technology field. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. We want to talk a little bit more about those today. So what we're going to ultimately get through today is how to find success in your IT career, because how you find success today is very different than how you would have found it, say, 12 years ago. And so we're going to talk through what's different today and how can we modernize our skills to still see success. So let me tell you first of all a little bit about myself. So first of all, my name's Mike Bird. My current role is I'm a head of an information technology, a set of teams at a company in Salt Lake City. Previous places of employment, worked at Sundance Catalog, Basic Research, Seamless, and Grubhub. Again, these are popular brands that you're probably aware of, as well as Zag Brands, where we focus on the manufacturing and distribution of kind of accessories to support your mobile lifestyle. Total experience is about 17 years in information technology and development over that time. So I want to start first of all talking a little bit about what IT and your traditional IT and development teams looked like, say 12 years ago versus how they look now. And I think this is one of the key reasons as to why you may have seen success in your career earlier on, and now you feel like you've plateaued out, or you feel like you're even regressing a bit because of changes that you see inside the industry today. So let's first of all just look at IT development from 12 years ago. So this was a very traditional team who was basically building a software product for a company. In fact, their core offering was a software product. So if we kind of start at the top and then go down, you can see essentially we have two different organizations in here. We have a technical operations team, that's at least what we were called at the place of employment at the time. So we have a technical operations team as well as a software engineering team at the bottom. And basically what the software team was doing is the software team was building new features and capabilities, and then they had to find a way, and this was the real impedance issue that we ran into, and a lot of companies ran into this. So they had to find a way as to how do we get our software shipped and operating in a production environment, right? And that required a significant amount of work. So, usually a lot of your technical ops guys, just being open and honest here, many times they did not have the best relationships with some of their software engineering counterparts. And that's because a lot of the technical ops guys had to deal with a lot of the garbage. If they were delivered a bunch of poor software, the technical ops guys are the ones who had to deal with it all the time, right? So on the technical operations side, you had a lot of administration roles in very specific focused verticals. So you had your systems and server administration guys. And remember, a lot of this is before we have, we just had the beginnings of kind of, cloud computing, but we didn't have any major applications running in that type of environment at the time. So it was a little bit more of a sandbox to play around with, but there wasn't anything substantial running inside of there at the time, certainly nothing at scale. And that just wasn't a reality at the time. So you had a lot of these verticals, right? You had systems, you had network, storage administration, like we had dedicated storage admins, okay? They were focused primarily on the support and administration of storage networks from NetApp, from HP, from 3PAR, all of those different vendors, right? And then we had database administration. Databases and the performance of those databases were very critical. And so we had dedicated DBAs, right, just to optimize the very databases, right, that the applications would be running on top of. We also had kind of a general production support team. Just kind of were responsible for after code was pushed into production. We had a group of individuals who were literally just kind of working with some of our care organizations to make sure that there wasn't anything at a production level that need to kind of get looped back into the development team for to quickly address. So that's what your operations teams looked like. So your operations guys had to basically find a way to get the software that had been produced from the engineering team, software engineering team, and run that now in an environment at scale in production. And making all that happen was difficult. And then making it happen well required a significant amount of work in the central layer here, which is this kind of what I just call it an interface impedance layer. What the software engineering team was doing and producing and what the technical ops group needed to be successful did not have a clean interface with each other. So this just created a lot of time where software was in QA, a lot of time where some of the technical operations groups would spend working with the development team to make sure that the specific services that were written could run at scale. There was just a lot of work in this central layer here, and it ultimately slowed down the ability to deliver software to production quite dramatically. And obviously our build teams down here, even the build teams were very kind of split out into certain groups, very similar to their technical operations counterparts. So, we had teams who were doing just back-end development. We had groups on the front end only. We had designers who were working with different individuals from, say, marketing on page designs and how they wanted the designs of these pages to look as well. We obviously had, we had a dedicated QA team. So we actually had QA engineers, and it was literally a full team of them. And all that they were doing was working with their development counterparts on writing QA tests that they could use, as well as broader integration tests that could be done and used. And so this is kind of how this used to be done. And you can kind of see this all kind of was how we would build software and how we would get it operational, how we would run it. Okay, so let's kind of fast forward to today. And I think somewhere between how we used to do things 12 years ago and how we do them today it's dramatically different in how software gets produced, how it gets deployed, and how it gets supported. And I think this is probably somewhere inside of these, these areas is where our careers may have faltered a little bit. And so we want to talk through that a bit. So if we look at IT development today, this is a much more streamlined life cycle and methodology as to how we deliver software today. And the same thing, I'm going to kind of start up at the kind of more the technical operations area. I've seen a lot of times, a lot of companies today will call these engineering roles site reliability engineers, right? And you'll notice that we don't have them broken out anymore in a specific area that is necessary for. Okay, so as I was saying there, this is a much more streamlined version as to how this is done today. And site reliability engineers, this is a common term that I actually find today. So again, these are engineers who are specifically, they're focused on ensuring that software services are reliable and available. And unlike kind of the IT operations area of, say, 10, 12 years ago, where they were very broken out into different verticals, many different isolated groups, your SREs many times have skill sets that traverse each of those functional areas before. So they're going to have skill sets in storage and systems, and even some basics in networking as well. And the reason they're able to do this Okay, is it's not that an SRE has the same deep focus in a specific vertical as, say, some of the IT teams from 10 years ago. It's not that that's the case, but what is different now is cloud computing. And cloud computing and the tool sets that are available to us now have dramatically improved and are very mature at this point over the last 10 years. And so many of the kind of deep knowledge that had to be known about how some of these different hardware services were operating, it's just simply not the case today. Some of that stuff you're just placing on the say a public cloud provider to basically know how to operate those things. And SREs are very much responsible more in a role of how do I essentially keep tabs on all of these different engineering services, right, that need to be available and working to ensure our software is correctly operating. And so we're going to talk a little bit we're going to talk more about what are the skills that these individuals bring more today than say individuals from 10 years ago. What are those skills that each of us, right, anybody who is kind of coming from an IT organization 10 years ago, what we have to start to change to see success. And I think to kind of see that significant step forward success that maybe each of us want to achieve, because it's not going to be found by doing things the way that we've done them 10 years ago. Other things that have changed. In the center, we have kind of our DevOps and cloud engineer. And you may kind of understand, well, what exactly is that? You may wonder, what exactly is that? And notice how this band kind of comes a little bit into the software engineering side and a little bit into the actual technical operations area. And that's because a DevOps and a cloud engineer, they're actually focused on working and building tool sets that allow the software engineering team to basically ship their product quickly at a very agile pace. And so instead of doing these massive big software shipments, these are very small incremental changes that are being shipped to production at extremely high velocities. And they're working with the technical operations counterparts on making sure that the right frameworks are being built also, so that these can land on top of a lot of the supporting infrastructure services in a way that the SRE team can easily support. And so these DevOps guys, they actually will have their life cycle includes pieces on the development side and pieces on landing this on the technical operations side. So a pretty big change compared to how we used to do things before. And when you think about, speaking of the software engineering teams, these guys many times more today, we're seeing this a lot more, certainly in the industries, we're seeing a lot more people who are full stack engineers. And a full stack engineer is somebody who is competent and capable of developing at many layers in the actual software stack. So they have the capabilities of a server-side back-end engineer. They're well versed in technologies such as PHP or Node.js or .NET. Those are just a few server-side languages that can be used, and they're very capable in that. At the same time, they're also very strong on skill sets that are happening in the front end, predominantly being JavaScript with kind of standard skills in HTML and CSS, which are just expected. So these full stack engineers are kind of more capable to do of writing kind of the whole stack, and as you can imagine, obviously that really streamlines the development cycle and how many teams have to be traversed to get something shipped out the door. A lot of the QA also, a lot of the actual quality assurance is being done by the developers themselves. There was a article I remember this was probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. But I remember an article when Microsoft had just recently, I think they had let go of a very large portion of their QA engineering group. And part of that was because Microsoft was really transforming their engineering resources to not not have separate teams do the actual QA test on this, but to actually force that as a skill that the development team needed to know themselves. And so a lot more work went on to the development team to be able to unit test, which has always been a function of the development team, but being able to do both unit test and functional integration tests, right? All of these things need to be done by the development team now because, as I noted, like with your SREs, there are significant improvements in the tool sets now. And so these capabilities exist there for them to do this. So this is kind of what I've seen as a very modern kind of software product lifecycle and the teams who are behind it, right? So if we think through this, what does it really mean then? What are the things that we need to do? What are the specific 5 skills? This is what I put together as the top 5 skills to succeed in today's modern IT. And you may be saying, look, I'm not looking for a new job right now. And that's fine, right? That's great. But at a certain point, you may be, right? Having worked in this industry long enough, I can tell you that there's times in your careers where business changes may affect you in a way that you're going to have to find a new job. Those things can happen. Or, look, you may just want to find new opportunities yourselves. And I can tell you those new opportunities, and depending on those companies where you're going to, more and more, these are the things that they expect. So let's talk through these a bit. These are the top 5 skills. And this is my opinion, but again, this is about 17 years of experience that I've seen and where I think your skills need to be to really succeed in kind of a modern, traditional IT operations area. Okay, so communication. You might laugh at this, that we're talking about something that's not technical as one of the most important things, but communication and emotional skills are vital. I cannot tell you that the ability to better understand what a business partner or a product owner, your ability to understand what it is that they're trying to achieve is critical, first of all, at writing a good piece of software and a good product. But secondly, it's vital in making sure you can support that and ultimately just be fully aligned with your business counterpart on what it is they're trying to do. The emotional skills that go with it. I can promise you, you're going to be in times in your career where it feels like you are backed up right into a corner. And you've got to have the emotional skills to navigate during those challenging times, which means who can you partner with across the organization to help you, in different things that you're struggling with. I mean, I'm telling you, this is a vital skill. And I say it's a skill. I can remember back in college is actually taking like a public speaking course. And I remember the time I thought it was kind of silly, but the more I think about it, the ability to talk and communicate to people, and the better you can also listen to people, is going to have a huge impact on your career. I really mean that. So I put that as actually number 1. Secondly, the days of where we're doing everything through UIs, okay? Now, if you come from a Windows background, this is probably something you've done for some time, where a lot of things are done through Windows UIs. A lot of the capabilities are basically built into that interface. Well, the problem that we're running into more and more now is that type of support is just not scalable. You can't do that same level of support that you're doing on one server as you can on, say, 1,000 servers in some time frame that's acceptable. And so you have to bring forward different tools that allow you to scale and automate a lot of your configuration and setup of your servers. And so you have to do this through scripting capabilities. So every modern SRE or IT professional, every modern one has to be good at this. They have to basically know a scripting language such as Python or PowerShell. They're both fantastic, and you can see a lot of success in your career by knowing one of these. If you know both, it's that much more valuable. So make sure that you pick this up, because this is how things are moving. You have to be able to scale into much larger amounts of servers. You may need to tear down and destroy larger amounts of servers, and all of this is possible through these skills. Multi-cloud engineering, the third one here. Companies are being very careful about which services do we take from which companies and where are they coming from. And so, the nice thing is, I don't care if you're working inside of Azure, maybe directly today, or you're specifically in AWS. The nice thing is the skill sets that you learn in how to engineer for both of those sides, they're becoming more standardized across the two. So yes, there's absolutely differences between the two, but you can find usually in Azure and AWS similar services that are being provided. And now the difference is really just, okay, so how do you provision those services and make them available? And even that is becoming very standardized on the types of protocols and APIs that are being exposed for this. So focus, you've got to get more of your time, you've got to get out of the on-premise, I'm working things in just my little data center here, or my little server room, and I want to be able to have physical hands-on hardware. You have got to get away from that, because that is not the future. It's not even the near future. I can share some data in a follow-up here, but a large percentage of companies now only look at cloud computing for the infrastructure for their services. And it's only if there's a problem there that they would come back to something on-premise. The issue is there is nothing in the cloud that can't be done anymore. And so you've got to start moving that way, because there's way too much business value to not be leveraging things on the cloud side. So be a multi-cloud engineer, okay? Linux and Windows, right? So the days of the OS wars, honestly, they're behind us. Microsoft themselves on the Windows side, their newest operating systems, for example, they can be 100% command line managed, and you don't need to be going through a Windows interface at all to support the management of those machines now. In fact, I think Microsoft just developed their own flavor of Linux. And obviously we've had a lot of different distributions of Linux too over the years. And so where Linux, or I say Linux, we're basically kind of that paradigm, I think comes out winning now, is because of its simplicity in kind of service management. And that simplicity is vital, because again, as we're talking about scaling to large numbers of computers, we've got to have a very common standard way as to how we support that. And so, that's why when I was saying things around your scripting languages, both Python and PowerShell is now cross-platform. They both can work in both environments, right? So again, this is why I'm saying those are great languages, because they're common. You can operate them across multiple operating systems. And I think it's important to understand Linux, but Microsoft's got a lot of very cool stuff also happening in their OSs now. You need to know them both, right? At least you've got to be on top of. You may be more skilled in one over the other, but you need to understand how they both work. The last thing I've call out on top 5 skills to succeed in today's modern IT is business alignment. Making sure that when you get a task to perform, is that you understand how this aligns to a business objective. Too many times years past, technologists were off kind of in their own corner of the company, and the company was just, we have to work with that group to get certain things done. I'm telling you, a lot of those skill sets, more of those skills are being pushed into different parts of the business now. And so if you want to stay valuable, you have got to be seen not as simply somebody who works in technology. You have to be somebody who is aligned and can add value to the business. And that's easier said than done, but that is what you need to be able to do. And so a couple of things that we do kind of as an engineering team is that we work very closely with our PMO organization as well as some of our product owners, is to make sure that we have product owners matched up with a PM who's matched up with a technical lead on our efforts going forward, right? And that helps drive that alignment between what we're trying to do from a business standpoint and what's capable technically to achieve. And that really helps that core team move forward together, and we get out of these kind of isolated silo areas of the company. So those are the top 5 skills to succeed in today's modern IT that I've put together. Feel free to reach out to me. Again, I think I mentioned earlier on here that I have a Forged in PowerShell series that I'm actually working on right now. This is going to be going through a lot of different capabilities in PowerShell. It's going to be focusing very deeply on that to build your skills that much further in PowerShell. So I'm going to be starting that. But again, love to have you subscribe, ring the bell for new content. I'm going to really try to work hard to get new content out there weekly. And thank you very much.